It wasn't just a comeback, it was a takeover. In a single half of basketball, Caitlin Clark didn't just return from injury, she rewrote the script of the entire WNBA season. What we witnessed wasn't a solid performance. It was a historic spectacle, the kind of electrifying display that instantly becomes legend. Some are already calling it one of the greatest single halves in basketball history. Not just women's basketball, basketball period. And it's hard to argue. Clark had been sidelined for 5 games. In that time, the Indiana Fever stumbled, the league's ratings tanked, and the energy around the WNBA all but evaporated. But the second she stepped back on that court, everything changed. She didn't just score, she set the building on fire, hitting 3 logo threes in under 40 seconds, silencing critics, and leaving even MVPs on the other team shaking their heads in disbelief. It wasn't just what she did, it was how she did it, with swagger, precision, and a flair for the dramatic. The crowd roared, social media exploded, and suddenly everyone remembered why Caitlin Clark matters. Because this wasn't just about one player, it was about the survival of a league. And in 38 seconds, she proved she's not just the face of the WNBA, she might just be its savior. Let's break down everything that happened, and why this game could go down as the most important in league history. Before Caitlin Clark's return, the WNBA was staring at a brutal reality. Without her on the floor, everything changed, and not for the better. The Indiana Fever went 2-3 in the 5 games she missed, but the losses weren't the biggest concern. It was how they were losing. The same team that had been must-watch TV just weeks earlier suddenly became slow, dull, and painful to watch. The energy was gone, the pace was gone, the fun was gone, and the numbers backed it up. Ratings dropped by more than 50% league-wide. Highlight reels dried up. The buzz disappeared overnight. What filled the void? Not thrilling basketball, but viral compilations of missed layups, awkward possessions, and sideline drama. The kind of chaos that casual fans don't tune in for. It was a cold dose of truth for a league that had grown used to riding Caitlin's momentum, and now had to live without it. Even worse, the media's mishandling of Caitlin's rise pushed many fans further away. Months of negative headlines, unfair criticism, and constant tension had built up. And once she was injured, many of those new fans simply walked away. Not out of boredom, but out of protest. They weren't just skipping games, they were boycotting the league. It was a message to the WNBA. Mishandle your star, and you lose your audience. Fast. For 10 days, the Fever and their fans were dragged through a hate speech investigation based on flimsy rumors, while real, documented hostility toward Caitlin and her teammates went ignored. It was a breaking point, and when word finally broke that she'd been cleared to return, you could practically hear the sigh of relief ripple through the league, not just because they needed her talent, but because they needed her presence. And the timing couldn't have been more perfect. Because Caitlin Clark wasn't just coming back, she was coming for revenge. The last time Caitlin Clark played, she was robbed. A no call on a game-tying shot handed the Liberty a controversial 90-88 win. And despite setting a viewership record of 3.3 million, all people could talk about was the officiating. Now, weeks later, she was back. Same opponent, same stakes. Only this time, the Fever weren't just underdogs. They were unraveling. All eyes were on her. The undefeated Liberty had become the league's juggernaut, while Indiana had lost its spark. Everyone wondered, would Caitlin still have that edge? Could she shake off the rust? Would she go down swinging or take the game over? Those questions were answered almost instantly, because what followed wasn't just a good start. It was the kind of basketball sequence people will still be talking about years from now. It started with one deep three, then another, and then, just to remind everyone who they were dealing with, a third, launched from logo range and buried with ice-cold confidence. 3 shots, 38 seconds, an entire arena on its feet, and a league suddenly awake. Caitlin Clark didn't just catch fire, she set the building ablaze. Each shot was more absurd than the last. No hesitation, no second thoughts, just pure instinctive brilliance. This wasn't someone coming back from an injury. This was a superstar putting the league on notice. Social media went wild. ESPN couldn't replay the clip fast enough. Fans who hadn't tuned into a WNBA game in weeks were scrambling to catch the replay. Even LeBron James tweeted about it. That 38-second sequence became the moment, not just of the night, not just of the season, but possibly of the entire WNBA era. And it wasn't just fans losing their minds. The players on the court couldn't hide their reactions either. And that's when you knew this wasn't normal. Later in the first half, Caitlin Clark pulled off something that had even her opponents smiling. She sized up Breanna Stewart, a former MVP, a face of the league. and launched a step-back three right in her face. Bucket. No hesitation. And Stewart? She just smiled, shook her head, laughed. Because what else could she do? The shot was ridiculous. The moment was undeniable. Even Liberty head coach Sandy Brondello was caught clapping and grinning in the background. They knew what they were witnessing. Greatness. It was one of those rare sports moments where competition took a backseat to awe. When your opponents can't help but admire you in the middle of the game, you're doing something special. That shot wasn't just about points. It was about power. Star power. This is what Caitlin Clark brings. Not just wins, not just stats, moments. The kind you remember. The kind that make people fall in love with the game. And by halftime, she had already delivered one of the most iconic halves in WNBA history. By the time the halftime buzzer sounded, Caitlin Clark had already scored 25 points. Let that sink in. 25 points in just one half of WNBA basketball, where quarters are shorter and space is tighter. And she did it while being subbed in and out like a hockey player. Head coach Stephanie White was managing her minutes carefully, trying not to overload her in her first game back from injury. But every single time Clark touched the floor, something electric happened. The commentators even pointed it out. Her rotations felt like shifts on ice. In for a few minutes, full throttle, then subbed out to breathe. But in those brief windows, she dominated. If it had been up to Caitlin, she probably would have stayed on the floor the entire game. She didn't look tentative. She didn't look rusty. She looked like a player on a mission. And here's the wildest part. Outside of Caitlin, the Fever were ice cold in the first half. At one point, she had 17 points, and the rest of the team had just 18. That's how lopsided the scoring was. She was the offense, the engine, the spark, the reason Indiana had a lead at all. But what happened next might have been even more important than Caitlin's heroics. Her teammates started to wake up, because in the second half, something shifted. The Fever started playing like the team fans had fallen in love with earlier this season. Fast, confident, energized. For the first time in weeks, it wasn't just Caitlin Clark carrying the weight. Her teammates were finally playing like they believed again. And it showed. With Caitlin Clark setting the tone, the rest of the Indiana Fever finally rose to the occasion. It was like a switch had flipped. The team that had looked sluggish and confused for 5 straight games suddenly found its rhythm again. Players moved with purpose. The ball zipped around. The offense had life. And for the first time in weeks, the Fever weren't just surviving without Caitlin on the floor, they were thriving. Kelsey Mitchell, who had been struggling earlier in the game, caught fire in the second half. Her shot finally started falling, and her confidence was back. She finished the game with a plus-minus of +21, a complete turnaround. Meanwhile, Aaliyah Boston and Nalissa Smith started owning the paint, crashing the boards and setting hard screens that freed Caitlin up to create. And then there was Sid Colson. If you followed the Fever this season, you know Colson's minutes have been inconsistent. But this time, when Caitlin went to the bench for a breather, Colson stepped in and did her job. She pushed the pace, disrupted on defense, and gave the team the exact energy boost they needed. If fans were quick to criticize her before, they had to give her credit now. She showed up when it counted. The Fever exploded in the fourth quarter. They ran the Liberty off the court, not just keeping pace with the top team in the league, but dominating them. When the final buzzer sounded, Indiana had scored a jaw-dropping 102 points against an undefeated squad on national television. And they did it with a blend of gritty team effort and superstar brilliance. Let's be clear, this wasn't just a win. It was a statement. And the player at the center of it all had just delivered one of the most ridiculous stat lines in league history. With every great moment in sports, there comes a wave of celebration and a wave of hate. And Caitlin Clark's return was no different. As soon as the final buzzer sounded, the backlash began. Not from the players on the court, but from the usual suspects online, desperate to downplay what everyone had just witnessed. Some critics didn't even bother hiding their bitterness. One viral post outright said, "I hate Caitlin Clark. No way around it." Others accused the WNBA of scripting the game, claiming it was too perfect and that the magnets were on the basket. That's how far people were reaching, blaming magnets, as if Caitlin's 32 points, 9 assists, and 8 rebounds were the result of a hidden plot instead of undeniable talent. Then came the body language police. Clips circulated showing Caitlin raising her arms in frustration after a teammate missed a pass, as if being fired up and wanting the ball when you're hot is some kind of crime. Never mind the fact that she had just dropped 25 in one half. Never mind that any true competitor would have done the exact same thing. For some reason, when Caitlin shows emotion, it's disrespectful. When others do it, it's passion. The double standard is real, and it's exhausting. Let's not forget, Angel Reese literally stormed up to Caitlin Clark earlier this season, screaming in her face after a foul, and was praised by her defenders for being intense and confident. But when Caitlin dares to clap for the ball after hitting back-to-back logo threes, she's suddenly a villain? Come on. This isn't about basketball etiquette. It's about discomfort with how much power Caitlin Clark holds, the kind of power that makes ratings soar, arenas sell out, and opponents shake their heads in admiration, the kind of power the WNBA has never seen before. So when people are nitpicking her body language, tweeting conspiracy theories, and flat out saying they hate her, it's not because of anything she did wrong. It's because they can't stop watching. And deep down, they know they're witnessing something they can't control. That's what happens when you become bigger than the game. By the end of the night, Caitlin Clark's stat line looked more like something from an NBA 2K video game than a real WNBA box score. 32 points, 9 assists, 8 rebounds, 2 blocks. And this wasn't against a bottom-tier team. This was against the league's only undefeated squad, with an MVP on the court in a nationally televised game. She was 2 assists and 2 rebounds away from a triple-double in her first game back from injury. That's not just impressive, that's historic. In fact, she became the only player in NBA history to ever record that exact stat line, ever. Let that sink in. And here's what's even more mind-blowing. Caitlin Clark, just a few weeks into her rookie season, already has more 30-point games than nearly 97% of all WNBA players in league history. She's not catching up to legends, she's passing them, fast. But what makes this moment truly game-changing isn't just the numbers, it's the impact. The WNBA didn't just get a great game on Saturday, it got a turning point. For the first time in weeks, casual fans tuned in again. Social media lit up for the right reasons. Headlines were about basketball, not drama. And maybe most importantly, people started caring again. Even players on the Liberty, the team Caitlin just torched, gave her props after the game. One said, "She's got incredible range, and she gets her shot off so quick, even after missing games. We're happy she's back. It's good for the league." That wasn't just sportsmanship. That was recognition. Everyone in that arena knew what they had just witnessed. And the league? Well, now it faces a choice. Because this can't just be a one-night celebration. The WNBA has to embrace the momentum Caitlin Clark brings. Not downplay it, not complicate it, and definitely not politicize it. She's the one player who can draw millions of eyeballs, get casuals to care, and make even non-sports fans sit down and watch. As Magic Johnson once said, a superstar isn't just someone with skill. It's someone who can go into any city and sell the building out. That's Caitlin Clark. That's the kind of star power you don't get twice. Now it's up to the league to decide. Will they ride this wave or let it slip through their fingers? Because Saturday wasn't just about a win. It was a glimpse at what the future could be. This wasn't just a comeback game. This was a cultural moment. One of those rare nights in sports when everything clicks, and everyone watching knows they've just seen something special. Caitlin Clark didn't just return to the court. She took over the conversation. She took over the league. And most importantly, she reminded the world exactly why she matters. In 38 seconds, she reignited the WNBA. In one game, she revived an entire team. And in 4 quarters, she may have shifted the future of women's basketball. Because here's the truth. The WNBA isn't just better with Caitlin Clark in it. It needs her. The energy she brings, the attention she commands, the way she makes the game feel bigger. It's something the league has never had before. She doesn't just play the game, she transforms it. And for those still doubting her impact, just look around. Ratings are back up. Highlights are trending. Even the people who claim to hate her can't stop talking about her. That's not coincidence. That's the Caitlin Clark effect. She's not just the face of the Indiana Fever. She's not just a rookie. She's not just a scorer. She's a movement, a shift in the culture, a reason people who've never watched a WNBA game are suddenly all in. And if you don't believe it, ask yourself this. What are the odds that millions of people tuned into a random Saturday afternoon game before Caitlin Clark entered the league? 0. That's the difference. That's the draw. That's what makes her a superstar. The WNBA now has something special. The only question is, will they know what to do with it? If you're still watching, drop a thou in the comments to let us know you were here for this moment. And let's hear it. Was this the game that changed everything for the WNBA? Because if you ask us, it absolutely was.